Welcome to the Triumphant Tribe podcast, a platform for inspirational and insightful conversations aimed at giving me and you positive outcomes in life. Here we talk about all things life, including finance, relationships, personal development, trending issues, and how they relate to young people. In our conversations, we share the life experiences of the host, guests, experiences of others, and even your experiences too via listener letters. You can listen to the Triumphant Tribe on Spotify. You can find the Triumphant Tribe at Titi by Wiz on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, where we'll be having snippets and highlights of our episodes. Feel free to leave comments on specific topics you'd like the tribe to discuss in the comment section of our social media post. Thanks for tuning in today, and be sure to check us out every week for new episodes. Welcome to the Triumphant Tribe, the podcast for young people. I'm your host, Chieftain, and today's episode is a very important and sensitive one. We'll be discussing a topic that needs more attention and understanding: rape and its victims. Rape is an egregious crime that inflicts unimaginable pain and trauma on its victims, leaving lasting scars that can ripple through their lives and relationships. Rape is an act of extreme violence that affects individuals and communities worldwide. It's a crime that leaves devastating physical, emotional, and psychological scars on its victims, often lasting a lifetime. While society has made progress in acknowledging the prevalence of sexual violence, we still have a long way to go in supporting survivors and creating a culture of consent and respect. In today's episode, we aim to shed light on this dark reality, giving voice to the victims and examining the impact of their experience on their journey to healing. But before we delve into our discussions with our guests, I'd like to issue a trigger warning. The nature of today's episode might be distressing to some listeners. If you feel overwhelmed during our conversations, please remember it's essential to prioritize your well-being. Reach out to trusted friends, family, or helplines that can provide you the support you need. Thank you. Remember to subscribe and share this episode with others, as together we can make a difference. That one Disha. But the numbers are quite overwhelming. Women account for, I think, over 85%. To my team, I was like, why you they talk about waiting women they do with they bad? I can't be like, but I know they lie now. Abby, she say, you know, go talk about how men they work out, they rape women. I can't be like, which kind talk? And you see, if actually she's been a victim like you, because I didn't even think of it in that direction too. If actually she's been a victim, you see, this is also one of the things we should be talking about, the trauma.
Because her father was a police officer, took her father's pistol and shot herself. She killed herself. What caused it? Grave. So grave can.
Based on this, it is very important that young people learn to disabuse their minds of, as much as we think that a certain group of people tend to fit the group of the most likely to be victims and most likely to be perpetrators. Of course, most likely to be perpetrators is men, and it runs from the age of, I think, about 17 to 29. Yes, about 7. Typically looks like, I think it is not very, very right to go around with the mind that when you see somebody that fits, say 6'5", you get, and then of that age, you just assume, this one, now one of them, you get. Ultimately, our personal security is our business more than it's any other person's business, right? Because once the crime has happened, once we've experienced it, no matter what forms or what measures are taken, right, to ensure justice, the trauma, the experience does not go away. The experience stays with the victim. it concerns us more than every other person. Our own personal security concerns us. For instance, if I'm passing through, say, Ikeja under bridge, 11:30 or Plaza, I call carry dollars. I carry them for transparent bag, right? Plenty dollars. We gold stuff. Wakano security. By that time of the night, yes, the government is supposed to protect me, but then that's risky. You get, if they rob me, they beat me up, they shoot me, or anything like that, the person will do them. Police might catch the person. In fact, area boys will even catch and beat them. If now you they sorry my you people, I'm still an you person. If now you or Calabar waiting the quick burn person, they don't burn the person sharp, right? But then I'll live with the experience of that trauma. You get my point?
Okay. Men rape men, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Male prison is a disaster. Have you heard about that stuff that if your soap falls in a male prison, you should not bend to pick it? For male victims, men are typically stronger than women, right? For the male victims, if you notice, they're always very small children.
Yeah, they are. So
you rarely see them old like that. So for men, it's more like the older you grow, the less likely. And that age where you become less susceptible to being a victim of this crime. The age where you become less susceptible to being a victim of this crime for men is much lower. To even pin down a 15-year-old boy self, he had, except now another man they pin him down.
Gender can rape me, please.
Yeah, you're doing like Jesus in the Bible when you had to save the best wine for the end. See the way you just did wine across the entire time. No concept and for the end. For those who don't listen to the end, now they miss Sha. Jennifer like saving the best wine at the end. Hello guys, so we're back today for another episode, second episode. Last week was a very exciting week. This week obviously is going to be much more better. We have a new guest with us here. You get to know him. You know I prefer the guests introducing themselves. And then we have a repeat guest from last week. A wonderful personality. I'll just let them introduce themselves as we start. So, ladies first, right?
Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about another episode. My name is Jennifer Bassi. As Julia said, I am an OP, MC, a red carpet host, and I am a journalist. It's nice to be on this podcast.
Ushe, thank you very much, Ma, for that beautiful introduction. Boss.
hello everybody. My name is Boom, like people call me Boom, and I'm a cloud engineer, mixer master engineer, also a music producer too. And I'm glad to be here with you people this evening, or to discuss a wide variety of things with Chieftain.
No,
Thank you.
sir. No, sir. Make you no come too plenty. You know, this I'll just start with something that happened to me today. So I was in a meeting, right? I was in a meeting, a work meeting, and then with some of my colleagues and my guys in the office. And then one of them started recording the session. And then the software we're using for the meeting immediately dropped a notification saying, by attending this meeting, you've consented to being recorded. And then he brought my mind back to what Jennifer said last week. So Jennifer,
Yes.
if I walk up to you, maybe I'm just eating something, and then we're in the same space, and I give it like I hand you a plate to also eat, and then you take it and then you eat. Did I really ask for your consent for you to eat?
Um, Legally, no, you did not ask my consent. But in a family way and in a friendship way, you must have given me this special sign before tossing the plate to me. But you still did not ask my consent. Because you're supposed to ask, do you want to take a bite? And I will say yes.
I would actually say the question is, were you hungry? Before you took the meal, were you hungry? Is it the case that you're hungry
You
or
know why I'm
because the food
asking.
appealed you?
Boom. You know why I'm asking, because she said last week that consent has to be gotten at every step of the way, and then that one of our guests last week, Peter, was saying that consent has to be explicitly said. But I was also thinking about it that consent in some way could be implied, because these things don't always work like that. And how do I even say it? When you actively take part in something, really, can you really argue that you did not give consent, or that that is still up for debate? Because I, not to take us back to last week, but just to, because even like that, the story of your friend, I think I'll leave that story for those that did not listen to last week's episode. I think you should listen to it, because to be a follow up from there. And next week too is also going to be a follow up from here, which is a follow up from last week. I mean, if you're missing any of the episodes, you're missing something. But then, to today's topic, we're going to just be talking about the consequences, right? Trying to look very deeply into uh, what, how the consequences, right? How painful or how devastating this crime could be on its victims. And today is just going to be more of a chit chat conversation and all of that. I don't know if you've seen some of the stories that I shared. One of the stories, like the case of Inyobo Omorin, right? That happened sometime in April 2021. I don't know if we all remember the story. You saw what happened
Yes.
in her case. The consequence there was death. I mean, the stories really are bad. Could be trauma for life. Those kind of emotional and mental scars. Could be death. It could be just a lengthy, cloudy period for the family of the victim and all of that. Jennifer, did you go through the stories?
Yeah,
Did you go
yes,
through the
I'm
stories?
fully aware of the story of late in newborn Umorin. Yes.
Okay, okay. More about the consequences. Today we're discussing just consequences.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Boom, how about you?
I'm aware. I'm aware we're discussing about the consequences of rape in our society today. Very aware.
Okay, so before she comes back, let me just issue a disclaimer. If you know me, for those that know me, my guys and all of that, you guys know I'm big on abstinence, right? I'm big on people being chaste. Why is
Okay.
he laughing? This man, wait till they laugh. In some ways, some people might perceive that this topic is sort of encouraging uh, premarital coitus. No, no, no. Let's use coitus, but they speak grammar like people who go school. No, this episode doesn't encourage that. That's very different. But in as much as it doesn't encourage that, we cannot pretend to be unaware that whether it is morally or socially acceptable, people go still they run am, Abby. Are we
Yeah.
hearing me?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. I just want to
Yeah.
be sure we're hearing me. So let me first put out that disclaimer. So this episode or this season is not perceived in a way that we don't intend for it to be perceived, right? So I don't know,
Okay.
Jennifer. Maybe we should start with you
Okay.
going through the stories and all of that. Do you think that there's anything that is common between the people that are typically victims of this crime? Do you think there's any commonalities that you've observed? Because, I mean, if it's a crime that is committed against people, then that means maybe a certain class of people can be victims or anybody could be a victim. So let's start from there.
Okay. One of the things I noticed is that the victims of rape, of this kind of rapes, from the table I read, are mostly young people, and most times fear is always exhibited. The one thing I noticed is young people. Young people are the victims.
Oh, I don't know if I heard all of what you said though, but I think you said something about young people being victims.
Yes,
Yes, that's
majority
actually
of
right.
mm,
Mm.
So I was saying something. Sorry, I hope I'm not interrupting somebody. I was saying that it's a two-edged problem, right? Having to
Okay.
help the victims of the crime and also um, trying to make sure that we don't have more young people committing these kind of crimes, right? So it's a double-edged problem in our society. I don't know if, Boom, you've done any form of looking into or something about or
Oh,
discussing
I
this
thought
with
you were
you.
going to ask Boom if he has raped someone before.
No, no, I can't. I don't look like one.
No, if speaking of which, from last week's episode, I don't get new hustle. Interacting with Jennifer, I don't get new hustle. Can you guys hear me?
Hear you.
I draft consent papers now. So if you need if you need
Wow.
consent papers, I draft. It's a very lucrative business
Eh.
for every stage of the journey. Yes, it's a very lucrative.
Sorry, Chieftain, can you be a bit more audible, Chieftain? Sorry.
Okay, am I better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I think we've hit at the angle of the age range. How about the gender? Is it a crime that
Sorry, please. What age range? What?
12,
Sorry,
12 to
what age range?
34? 12 to 34. You know, I went looking at the analytics for our listeners from last week.
Okay.
Majority of our listeners are between the age of 18 to 27. So perfectly in the range of the people that we're talking to actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Boom, I was saying something. I said, aside the age, right, for both
Okay.
victims and perpetrators, did you notice any other? Have you noticed any other patterns?
Um. Well, when you talk about rape, you know that a rape group is one-sided. You know, based on gender, not just women. Rape is also associated to men, and you know it might not also be like women to men. You know, men rape men actually,
Yeah,
and
yeah, you're right. You're right. Male prison is a disaster. Have you heard about that stuff that if your soap falls in a male prison, you should not bend to pick it?
yes, I think even though it's a myth, I've never been to a male prison, but it actually sounds, you know, it actually sounds intimidating right inside there. That's why I don't wish that for anybody. I mean,
Okay.
but when you talk about the prevalence of rape in our society, and probably you talk about classes of people that get raped. You know, you can group. I think statistically, uh, students gets raped or gets more raped than, you know, people that let's say outside school. And I'm basing my statistics on REN, which collects data for this, which is a rape, abuse, and incest national network.
Wow. Wow. Is it a Nigerian thing, Abi?
It's actually from a global and also an American perspective, but I think pertaining to
Actually, sorry to cut you. Sorry. Okay, no, just finish your point before I come in.
sorry.
You okay? Okay, I think maybe I can say what I wanted to say. Actually, in the U.S., for instance, about roughly 50% of rape or harassment cases or assault cases are usually um yeah, a lot of their assault and grave cases are in campus areas, and it is the
Okay.
chances goes
Okay.
by up to 50%. Chance of occurrence goes by up to 50% if you have a party where alcohol is seriously abused. And you remember last week also we said something about the use of alcohol, that somebody that is high, somebody that is intoxicated cannot give consent, right? And
Okay.
also, even when somebody is intoxicated or high, the person is most susceptible to be a victim of these kind of things. And then I also said something from last week that is why there's an age of consent, because the age of consent is like the age of responsibility, where you know where you should be,
Mm.
you know what
Okay.
is best for you, and you try to do what is best for you to keep you safe. Because here's the thing, as much as we can say all of these things, the government can do certain things for us, our parents can try to protect us. Ultimately, our personal security is our our business more than it's any other person's business, right? Because once the crime has happened, once we've experienced it, no matter what forms of measure measures are taken to for justice to prevail or for justice to be meted out, no matter what forms or what measures are taken, right, to ensure justice, the trauma, the experience does not go away. The experience stays with the victim. So
Yeah.
even though the government and every other person has a part to play, we as individuals, it is a it concerns us more than every other person. Our own personal security concerns us. For instance, if I'm passing through, say, Ikeja under bridge, 11:30 or Plaza, I can't carry dollars. I carry them for transparent bag, right? Plenty dollars. We gold stuff. Wakano security. By that time of the night, yes, the government is supposed to protect me, but then that's risky. You get, if they rob me, they beat me up, they shoot me, or anything like that, the person will do them. Police might catch the person. In fact, area boys will even catch and beat them. If now you the sorry, my you people, I'm still an you person. If now you or Calabar, waiting the quick born person, they don't born the person sharp sharp, right? But then I'll live
Sure.
with the experience of that trauma. You get my point?
Okay.
That's the whole thing about the age of consent and responsibility. That's how I see it.
Okay. When it comes to responsibility, like for rape victims, I think in as much as we want the society to be automatically safe, it can't be automatically safe, like you said. We all owe to responsibilities in our part. And I know some people will come for me that this. But one of those things I will actually like to point out is being at the wrong place at the wrong time, the place and the timing. The place and the timing. It's very very essential to know where you are at that time. Is that place secured? Who and who? There are, even the rep. There are some places you can't be at, and then maybe you didn't expect certain thing to happen, but then it just like pops up that people now like, you get me, because rape is not something someone plans for. You get me? It's not something someone plans for. So
Yeah. That's true. It's not something someone plans for. In fact, I even think that some of these criminals that commit this kind of act, some of them might not even plan it. Some of them might not even plan it. How do I even put it? It's not like they leave their house. All of them leave their house. I think our madam is gone. She'll soon be back. It's not like all of them leave their house with the mind that as I'm going out, this is what I'll do. Of course, quite a number might be doing that. But I also think that some of these things could be spontaneous. I don't know. I've never been there. I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking. And then also, I think also that if you look at it too, when you look at the numbers for female for male victims, men are typically stronger than women, right? For the male victims, if you notice, they're always very small children.
yeah, they are
You rarely see
so.
them. You rarely see them old like that. So for men, it's more like the older you grow, the less likely, and that age where you become less susceptible to being a victim of this crime. The age where you become less susceptible to being a victim of this crime for men is much lower. To even pin down a 15-year-old boy self, he had, except now another man they pin him down. You get? Because here's the thing,
Okay.
for children, for male kids, it is both male and female, and it's always familiar people, right? It's always familiar people. Last week we established that 93% of the people that grape underage people are people that are they account for about 50 something percent. Family accounts, Abby? No, I think family accounts for 51. I think it's a 51, 39 something. I can't really recall. But I know one percentage is 50 something, the other one is about 40 something. Family and acquaintances, but both together make up about 93% of those that grape young people, minors especially. And then for women, it's a crime that unfortunately really women are the most victims. Women are the most victims, and I think in week our episode 4 of this, we're supposed to be talking about what we can do as members of the society in various capacities to protect people from this, protect our sisters, to protect our younger siblings, our children, and all of that from being victims of this kind of crimes. But before that, I was going to women being victims, and it is. I think women being lesser, like not being as physically strong, puts them at a position where they typically fall victim of this kind of crime. And
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah. Like you
can you
said,
hear me?
first of all, yes, I can hear you. Like you've said, I think generally women or men, irrespective of age, one trait that a rapist generally usually portrays his weakness, and that's what someone of a stronger virtue preys on. You get me? That's what someone,
Okay.
because it's like, okay, this person cannot protect his or herself, and
Yeah,
then
that
okay, I
one
can have my
day.
way.
That one day, Sha. That one day, Sha. But
You get me?
the numbers are quite overwhelming. Women account for, I think, over 85% of the victims. I can't remember the numbers. Quite unfortunate that I had such a very busy day today that almost I didn't even prepare for to talk this evening. But then it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Can we hear me, Chief?
Yes,
Jennifer,
we
can you
can.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not hearing her voice. She's just yawning. No go sleep, leave us.
I'm just enjoying. I'm just enjoying the session.
You're enjoying the conversation.
Yes.
Okay, okay, no wala. Okay, so and then if you look at there's something I wanted to also say. You know, one of the things that came to my mind while I was thinking about the session this evening. So there's this girl on my WhatsApp. She's not really my friend per se. I knew her through one of my siblings. Probably she'll hear this. If she hears this, she'll know she's the one I'm talking about. But nothing spoil. I don't mention I don't mention her name.
Oh,
So one
God
one
willing.
one day, I beg go calm down first. Hear what I want to finish now. This woman. So one day I where me I usually the day where I want blast for my WhatsApp status, I just the blast on all cylinders, causing trouble everywhere. She now came to my DM and was like, "Why you they talk about waiting women they do where they bad?" I can't be like, but I know they lie now. Abi, she say you know go talk about how men they work they rape women. I can't be like, which kind talk with that? You get? And this is somebody that has, I think she has three. She's the only female. And I now started thinking, so is this how this person sees guys? You get it was a very funny thing because coming to look at also what we're discussing this evening, I'm now thinking maybe some people really think of when they think of who could be a rapist, they think of the person fitting a certain profile. You get?
Okay.
Jennifer,
Um.
are you here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't
Responding
know.
to
Maybe
that
Jennifer
question.
should just speak. Do you think?
Okay, first of all, I would like to know if she's a victim of rape because I'm worried about why she
No,
would have such
no. I
such
don't think
towards
I
her.
don't think she is. I wouldn't want to assume. She hasn't told me. I don't think she is. But coming from that angle, I know her brothers are really nice guys. Her brothers treat her really. They treat her like egg. You know when I usually tell you that you're the egg of your family. Yeah, she's the
Mhm.
real egg of her family.
But you know that sometimes, or most times, these perpetrators don't look like what they are. They don't look like, you won't even imagine what some girls will tell you
Boom, can you
what
hear
they go
Jennifer?
through in some relationships. So that kind of view about men, that's a very serious one.
Yeah, yeah, and you see, if actually she's been a victim, like you, because I didn't even think of it in that direction too. If actually she's been a victim, you see, this is also one of the things we should be talking about, the trauma it leaves behind.
Yeah.
You get, you get. If she's a victim, possibly this is also, and even if she's not a victim, she might be sharing in the grief of another person. You
Yes,
get.
yes.
She might be sharing in the grief of another person, and it gets her to gather everybody, get everybody will be man, we get XY chromosome. XY is man, abi XX is female.
I don't know, your own.
Okay, pack all of them, put for one basket, label them grapists.
Mm,
You get that kind of thing. She
mm.
said it. I didn't know what to say. At first I wanted to be angry, but I can't be like, what's the point? This it doesn't make sense to be angry. Yes, it's quite offensive that I just did on my own person call talk that kind of thing. But I just felt at that point that maybe she needed help or something. Oh, boom, you want to say something?
Um. No, 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 no. You can go on. I'm listening. You're listening.
No, you can speak. You can speak.
No, no, go on. You're listening, cause no, I'm trying to get insight from what you're saying too.
Okay.
Okay.
Now who's called the talk past everybody? Well, not this for. I think also that based on this, it is very important that young people learn to disabuse their minds of, as much as we think that a certain group of people tend to fit into the most likely the group of the, and a certain group tend to fit into the group of the most likely to be victims and most likely to be perpetrators. Of course, most likely to be perpetrators is men, and it runs from the age of, I think, about 17 to 29. Yes, about 17 to 29. So even when that is what the profile of the perpetrators typically looks like, I think it is not very right to go around with the mind that when you see somebody that fits, say,
Yes.
6'5", you get muscular,
Mm-hmm.
and then of that age, you just assume, this one, now one of them. You get that kind of thing.
Okay.
I think it's unfair though, but I also think that it is good that we protect ourselves against being victims. Like I said, you remember I started with the prison joke, the prison story, that they say that if you are in a male prison, if your soap falls in the bathroom, don't bend to pick it. Just forget about that soap. You get, because if you bend to pick it, anything will happen.
Okay.
God.
Jennifer, why they laugh? eh?
Oh, I'm just
Why you laugh?
imagining. I'm just imagining
You're just imagining what?
what you just explained about the male prison. Weird.
It's weird. Yeah. Well, at least you don't hear him now. I think the first time I heard that stuff, it's been long, but one of these days, I was watching there's this black American, what do they call it? Is it boomer something? Boomerangs or boomerangs? Boom, the black American anime.
I'm not a fan of anime.
Me,
I
say
know
we
they'll
dey
come
watch
from my
anime
head.
now. Definitely, your head is big enough to go around. So I think I was watching that, and then they spoke about that stuff again. Say black Americans, they are popular for certain stuff. Let me not profile people. This is not. Uh, okay, so moving ahead, we've talked about some of the things that could happen to people that are victims. We've spoken about death. We've spoken about the emotional trauma, how they could be scarred. For instance, when I mentioned the story of that girl and Jennifer just suggested that it's possible she's experienced something like that, or she could be sharing in somebody's grief. That's also an effect, which is very bad. Which is very, very, very bad. I hope she recovers soon. Or if she's recovered by now, I don't know.
Uh,
So,
I hope she
such.
does.
Jennifer, you said?
I said I hope she does. I really can relate with what she said. So my own was not the case of rape or the case of sexual assault. My own was the case of serving breakfast. Somebody serving you breakfast. So
And me, I
after that
know.
period,
Una
they are just
plenty where they think like that.
certain
Una think say anybody will get XY chromosome. Nah, waiter where they waka they serve breakfast, including innocent men where they
like,
waka here.
"Hmm." So there are certain persons that when they make some
I'm
certain
I'm
kind of
I'm very
discussion,
sure. I'm very sure that aside that funny name that you have, my contact saved on your phone, you have breakfast beside it, Abby.
no, we don't allow that to happen again. Now, Mumu, they trust man. Now, Mumu, they trust man. You cannot fault twice.
Boom, you can hear
Eh?
Jennifer.
I think men we are wonderful creatures. Yeah, there's no need to tell say na moody.
Defend
Okay.
Anthony.
No,
Okay.
actually, there are good men out there. You get me? There are men that treat women right out
Abeg,
there.
think for it. On behalf of the female folks, we are looking for the good men, please.
Don't
Then
worry.
day your DMs, then day your friend zone. Then day your DMs, then day your friend zone. You want me to
Uh,
deviate? Okay, let me deviate small.
No, we're
This
not.
is how
We're
I
not
typically
deviating
see it.
actually.
This is how I let me just explain something maybe in a minute or two. This is how I typically see it. Right? I think that if you have men spanning through a spectrum of 100%, there's a top 5%, say 3 to 5%, that are actually actively pursuing, right? And then there's a bottom like 10 to 15% that are doing nothing, right? They have no interest in going after women or anything because it is just too stressful, right? And then the rest of those in between, those ones go after maybe once in 2 years, once in 3 years. You get those ones are always waiting for the right moment. So if you look at it too, this top five, if maybe it's, they're typically the ones that are most desirable by uh, physical looks, the charisma, and all of that. So they have a lot of options around them. For instance, to prove this point, if I randomly sample 10 girls and ask them, describe the kind of person you like, you hear them start with 6 foot plus. You hear them start with dark, bearded,
No,
as white.
I think you should ask her. I think you should ask her.
You get
Thank you. Boom,
waiting
thank
this one they
you.
squeeze
I don't know
first.
how to do it.
You think if I ask her now, she will tell you truth?
Well, she won't say
Yes,
the truth. Oh, but ask
true.
her. Let's you will know if
I
it's
know
the
what
truth or
I'll
not.
ask her. Okay, okay, let me ask her. Jennifer, describe the kind of person.
Okay, the kind of person I would like, right? Mhm. You should have money. Money is
Uh-huh.
number
You
one.
see, how many guys gave money?
I don't know.
It's like it's that
Try.
level.
The society says you should work.
This gave money
Try.
now how much? 3 million a month, 5 million a month,
No, for
20
me,
million
me,
a month. I mean, 15K a month. Hmm?
I'm not outraged. 150K a month, 80K a month. The least at least should be 80K a month. You should have money. You should be caring. You should be responsible. Then if
That's
you
all.
have six pack, biceps and triceps, that's Jara. Don't worry. That one.
That's all. Boom. You need to hit the gym. You need to hit the ground running.
I have six packs, bro.
Um.
What are you saying? I have six packs, bro.
Okay. Okay. I was even
Abi,
going
I
to
should
say
repeat.
something.
I should
I've
repeat.
forgotten.
I should.
I was going to say something.
Mm.
You don't hear that
This
song
and
from
more.
Mukesh, a good bad guy. I think you should listen to that song. Jennifer, you should listen to that song after the show. In fact, let me write it in the chat so you listen to the song. So let's
Okay.
get back to what we're discussing. Let's get back to what we're discussing. We've already done. Let's get back to what we're discussing. We've already done some time already.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've looked at how prevalent this crime is. Again, another I met. I don't know. I always have very funny stories. Sometime in June, it's very recent. This is July. Sometime in June, I met somebody. It's somebody I already know, but we don't really talk like that, right? So we're just talking. You know what this girl told me? That there's no girl in the world that's never been assaulted before.
That's never been. Sorry,
No
can
woman
you,
assaulted before. That there's no woman that has never been assaulted before. Almost it shocked me. Oh. I can't the reason.
I,
Is it really
I
true?
don't I don't think it's good to generalize in that manner. It's safe to say most women or some women.
The funny thing is, I don't have issues with generalization if properly done, because if you reason them, I think science in itself, there's that factor of generalization in science. When you observe a pattern that is consistent enough based on for instance, weather forecast, right? When they want to forecast the weather, say should a plane fly today, should it not fly, is the weather safe enough? They look at it typically when these parameters or these variables have certain values, it is not safe enough. So it's looking like it today, right? Or for tomorrow, the variables will look like this. So it should not be safe enough to fly. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is absolutely unsafe. There's still that chance, there's still that likelihood for safety, but then it might be very little. You get. So I think generalization, when properly done, might not really be a bad thing. But generalizing to that level where you say every woman has been a victim, and then you now say that every man, this one, it wasn't from her, it was from another lady to a popular person, that every man is either part of those that assault or has friends that he knows assault and he doesn't say anything about it. I can't even imagine having somebody like that in my circle, because typically I call out people for their bullshit, right? Anybody will know me, no say, I know really they send. When you do things that are not good, I'll call you out for it.
Mm.
Is Jennifer back? She was saying something about generalization. I think her network just went off. Jennifer, you can drop a text or say something if you're here. We're talking about generalization, where I was trying to talk about how prevalent the crime is, and then somebody having to tell me that every woman in the world has been a victim of assault.
Um,
She's not here. Boom, you have anything to say about that?
Yes,
like every
as if
woman,
you said.
like every woman being, I think, like every woman being a victim of assault. Is that what you're saying? Well, I don't think every woman has been a victim of assault. Some women project their views on men based on what, or based on hearsays. There are actually women that, they've been alive, they've grown up, they've gone to places, they've been with men, but they've never been assaulted. You get me? I'm a believer that, gold attracts gold. You get me? So as a woman, I think there's every indication of, there's every indication of you meeting a man, and then okay, this man is capable of this doing, or this doing, and there's a certain time frame to also know that. You get me? Because you can't just meet someone and the features or characteristics of that person just evolve. You get me? There will be a time frame. Okay, let's say you've been with the person one, and there will also be situations, not just time frames. There will also be situations to, like, reveal the true character of a person. You get me? So you can meet somebody, and then the vibe is way off. I feel like, oh, this person, if I go wrong, I will surely be assaulted. Or this person, let's say worst comes to worst, he can get me raped. There are always indicators depending on how people behave. You get me? So I think
But
I think
there are sometimes that we even see these red flags. Some people see these red flags and we still ignore it with the hopes that later on this person is going to change. You see these
I
red
think
flags that
I
maybe
think I think
okay.
I get what you're trying to say, but I think that's one of the, what should I call it, the drag bags of the human race, and hoping in someone. Let me use the word hope. You get me? Especially women. Women will see white and then they'll expect maybe at a point in time this white will turn black. You
Yes.
get me? That's women.
Well,
That's how, because they are driven by emotions. So it's whatever they feel right now. They want it to be vacuum, and they want it to be filled so that you know they'll be satisfied.
all for me, I think generalizing is bad. It's an awful thing to say. I mean, if it's on radio, I won't say that they'll sue you, but they will fine you, yes, for generalizing a situation because you can't say because of when you were assaulted by one or two persons, you just feel all men are the same. No, they're not the same. Just as Chief said at the beginning, something we basically everyone has to work on. All the victims of accident or grave needs to work on their minds, you know.
Yeah.
So
Speak.
generalizing,
I think you said it. I think that's the first thing. But I think first of all, as let me actually focus on the part, like that women are actually statistically they're the ones liable to get raped. I think for me, first of all, women should also have this sense of responsibility. Get me? I feel they should have this sense of responsibility of like, okay, I'm going out. Like I can tell you, like instances where women get raped. A friend of mine went out with a man. He doesn't know his origin or way of. You get me? Like you've never even spoken that much to even know the kind of attitude or character you're dealing with, and you're going out with that person. Like to what aim? You get me? You put yourself in such a
In
risk.
harm's way.
You get me? You put yourself in
Boom.
such a risk.
Boom. Sorry to interject. I think I told you the story of you of course know I don't want to mention names, but once I start talking, you know who I'm talking about, right? So
Okay.
I told you one night why they smile.
No, no,
this
no, no.
this guy. Okay. So I told you of one night that I called somebody, right? And she was
Okay.
crying.
Okay.
She was crying. It happened this year. So you should know who I'm. Maybe once I start talking, you should know who the person is here. I think that was sometime around March or so. I called her, she was crying at night. So I tried to talk to her. The conversation wasn't really conversing, the vibe wasn't there. So I let it go. I shall just wanted to be sure she was alright. She insisted she was fine. I left. I called her the next morning. When I called her the next morning, she told me, and now started pressing to know what really happened the previous night. Jennifer, you
Okay.
hear me? Are you back?
yeah,
Okay.
yes,
I now
I'm
called
here.
her. I now called her to know what happened the previous night.
Okay.
And then she refused to talk about it. I kept pressing. She finally said that so she met somebody. This thing happened on a Friday night. This
Okay.
thing I called her on a Friday night when she was crying on the phone, and it wasn't too obvious, but I noticed something was wrong. So on Saturday morning she told me that she met somebody on Sunday.
Okay.
This girl I'm talking about is not up to 22. She's not up to 22. She met somebody on Sunday. This guy should be in his mid 30s to late 30s, say somewhere between 35 to 40. Now she met the guy on Sunday. The guy was driving out of somewhere she was trying to walk out of, right? And then the guy saw her, stopped, gave her a lift, right? And
Okay.
then in the course of the trip, the guy got her number and then started calling her that day. And they fixed for them to go out that Friday. And then this guy called her to meet him at a bar. This bar is a bar in a hotel. No be regular bar or lounge. A bar in a hotel. And then bought alcohol for her. And when she started saying these things, I'm like, come, come, come. Yes, you're not very old, right? But you're at least old enough. You're up to 18. What do you think this guy wants? What exactly do you think this guy wants? Tell me the truth. She says she thinks the guy just won't be friends. What kind of friends? Like, like I know, yes, she was hot from the previous day, but I was angry that the signs were scattered everywhere. Jennifer, you hear me? I think Boom just
Yes,
lost
I can
connection.
hear you.
The signs were scattered everywhere, and she deliberately put herself in harm's way. This guy is almost 2 times your age.
You
This
know,
guy
most
just
times
wants you.
when I
No,
hear
let me.
things, I always say
No,
it's greed that causes most of these ladies to fall for things like this. Because
no. She
how
said
do
she
you
wanted that she felt the guy just wanted to be friends. I'm asking, what kind of friends? What do you have to offer this guy as
exactly,
friends? What do you
exactly?
have? He's asking you to come meet him in the lodge, I mean in a bar or a hotel, and then wants you to go to his room. What do you think is going to happen? Do you know that you just narrowly escaped being grabbed by the whiskers? Do you know that? I said it, and then she now started feeling bad that she told me the truth, that she shouldn't have even told me in the first place. I'm like,
See,
see, I don't want to hear that kind of thing again, no. Because I don't understand how you put yourself in. What exactly were you expecting? You don't understand that most guys, I don't even lie, most guys think in a very transactional manner, right?
mm-hmm,
As I'm doing this, I'm investing for something. So, as he's
mm-hmm.
investing, when it is your turn to invest, would you be able to give him what he wants?
And besides, the venue itself should even let
The
you know
venue, the venue is
what
bad.
is
He's
involved.
buying you alcohol. Okay, I didn't even mention one part. He's buying you alcohol. He bought her 3 bottles. Oh, Abi, he bought one and said he wanted to buy three. I'm like, why should he buy you 3 bottles? Why?
Can
I'll
imagine.
even feel very uncomfortable if I went out with a girl and then she bought 3 bottles of alcohol. What kind of person is that? So what is he trying
You
to do
can
with three
imagine. I
bottles
think
of
I
alcohol?
agree with the cost and sometimes.
So sometimes I like I said,
I
yes,
agreed,
in
and
that
you
case.
just want to see to the end.
No, the thing is also, in that case, the signs are there. Her parents cannot completely protect her because she's an adult already, right? Her parents cannot completely protect her. She's responsible for where she goes to. In this kind of situation where she went there deliberately, she went there not under any influence of anything,
You
and then most likely the consequences, she's going to live with it alone. Even
can
if
imagine.
that guy is jailed, maybe he's jailed or anything, and it's even going to be a difficult case to prove in court. God, I don't even
You
want
can
to go to
imagine.
fine into details because how do you go and explain it that you went to see this guy in the hotel? you, you get.
You
So
can
sometimes,
imagine.
and then I think you people were talking about something about the signs being there or something.
Yes,
When Boom was saying something about they'll see white and want to change it to black, or see black and want to
yes.
change it to white.
Red flags, yes.
Okay, I think that one is something that is very common amongst us. Myself, sef, I don't follow them before. We have this Messiah complex, right? Person where Jesus died for, and you know, greed they saved. You won't go sacrifice yourself for him.
Mm,
You get that kind. You get that kind of thing.
yeah.
So, wait, I'm coming, please. Okay, so sorry, I'm back. So I said somebody that Jesus died for and he refused to be saved. I'm not saying you should not preach to the person. You can try to change the person, but don't sacrifice yourself in the line of trying to change the person because you cannot do more than Jesus. That's how I see it too. We typically have this Messiah complex. I've been there before. And I always say that when I was there, I got my hands burnt. Since then, I've learned that people are who they are. If they don't want to change, there's nothing you can do that will make them change. There's absolutely nothing. If they don't want, if change of first of all starts with the individual. So if they don't want to change, there's really nothing you can do to make them change. And in I don't know if there's any other thing you want to say. I think we should be rounding up soon. No?
Um, I think basically would have to say about our topic for today. Um, how grape rather affects its victims. It, we have very many ways, mentally, socially, um, very many ways. Since we already know the people that are easily exposed to this grape, the people that have the highest risks, and the ones that are not really affected, those around the ages of 55 and older.
Yeah.
And we've also talked about someone that could be capable of of raping another person. Rather, we've talked about that, some behaviors, verbal, physical violence. We talked about red flags. There are some red flags people see in their relationships, and then just hope that it will get better. You see in
Based
your
on say
relationship,
the Messiah now.
the relationship stage is easily provoked by physical violence. These are signs that one day you could break through. We see other signs like inappropriate touching and fondling of younger siblings and friends. This is in the cases that you hear that a brother raped his sister, a father raped his child. That's another case. That is, those are signs to show that a situation of rape can happen. Another situation is threatening others, threatening people. If you do this, this is going to happen. And communication style, we talked about that one as well. So, since we looked at most of these things, and we've looked at how grape assault affects citizens, affects the people that the victims rather. We talked about it at the beginning, when we were just listening, the trauma. So, normally, I just want to proceed to the physical effects of rape and
Okay.
psychological effects of rape. Yes, I feel we haven't touched that. So, the physical effects of rape is there are plenty, but one can be sexually transmitted diseases
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
STDs. You could contact HIV. One could contact even syphilis, gonorrhea, all this stuff. Another thing, but most times most people used to just think about pregnancy when you have you see a victim of rape, immediately say go and do pregnancy test, go and do pregnancy test.
You know, funny
People
enough,
most
funny enough. Sorry to cut you. The pregnancy that results out of that is actually very small. Like the percentage is
see
small.
it's small
It's
because
smaller than STDs. I think smaller than STDs.
yes, it's small. I think in this week, yes, just this week we had someone from NASA come to speak to the people of Akwa Ibom about AIDS and HIV, how it can be.
They really
Um,
need to hear it though. That our you.
yeah, so the man talked about the cases of rape and what happens when somebody is raped, rushed into the hospital. He talked about
Yeah.
a drug, they call it PAP.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
one
People to
free
take within few hours to prevent HIV.
a PEP, and then there's now one that's called PEP, something like that. So, some one of the physical effects of rape is, apart from those STDs, it's pregnancy, is urinary infections
There's
and
even death
painful.
too.
Yes, physical effects. Then this other one I feel is what people don't really talk about, but they happen. It is painful intercourse with your significant other. You find out that if you get into a relationship with somebody that was raped one time ago, you will see that your sexual life would be affected a lot. Something that could be normal for some people, in you people's case, it's going to be different. Small hugging, small this, and have the case of painful intercourse. So those are the physical effects of rape. Then let's look at the psychological effects of rape, the ones we cannot see. Now, most times we have victims that experience both the short term consequences, and there is long term psychological effects of this thing. And if it's not carefully managed, it becomes a long term. And one of the most common psychological consequences of rape, this one is very common, is self blame. Is self blame. And if it's not controlled at that early stage, it's what leads to that long term psychological effects. There was a story I told last at the last episode, how this girl said she didn't want to report the perpetrator because she said the perpetrator was her crush. Until when and ever she keeps blaming herself. Say if it was if I was because she said, Jenny, I blame myself when I make her myself go in house. She na me stay till night. I'm like, babe, really? So self blame is something that people know they really reason am, but it dey happen. They will go and they will be looking for excuses. So I've been seeing signs. I used to see guys on this road. If I knew, I would have avoided this road. Or if I knew, I would have worn a longer gown. But really, self blame. Why are you blaming yourself? What did you put spirit for another person body? Make make that person can't rape you. So self blame is one of the psychological effects of rape. And this other one is very common. Depression. When these things happen, they want to be kept to them. They want to be just by themselves. I saw a Nigerian movie here at the office, and it was a situation of rape. So this girl normally takes her brother home and from school, and then you know, come on, this her brother is physically challenged. So there were some boys that were always on the road, and the guy asked her out and refused. So one day she was coming back from school, taking her brother back from school. These boys raped her. But to cut the long story short, later on in future, these boys that raped her took pictures of her. So they started spreading these pictures on social media. And then there was one man that wanted to marry her. This man now came upon those pictures. And when he saw those pictures, the man just assumed that she was already into prostitution. And the man broke up with her. That's how the marriage did not happen. Do you know what this girl did? She ran back to her parents' house because her father was a police officer. Took her father's pistol and shot herself. She killed herself. What caused it? Grape. So grape can lead psychological effects. It could be depression. It could be flashback. It could be sleeping disorders. We talk about PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. That is feeling
There's
anxiety.
even a form of PTSD that is associated to grape alone, self. There's a form of PTSD that is associated to grape. I think it's called RTD or RTS. Sorry. You can continue. Sorry, I had to cut you.
Okay. Another psychological effect is guilt. Guilt and distrust for other people. This one really happens in relationship. Find a situation that a girl cannot open up. She finds it very difficult to open up to her boyfriend. Or let me use boyfriend because it can't happen in the stage of husband and wife. Another thing is anger. You touch, just maybe you place a hand on the lady, she gets really angry at you because it gives her flashback of what had happened. So those are some of the psychological effects of rape. Most especially, I really want to stress on that self blame. Self blame should not be underestimated. And if you know anybody that's is a victim of rape, it's always good that you handle them with care. And then one other thing we missed out is when rape happens, what do we do first? What do we do first? Medically, legally, where do we start from? So I can't actually say take this or that. Remember when it was Ebola? They said people should put salt inside water and
Pet
shower.
salt. You do am.
Yeah,
Talk truth.
I did not do it. Though. I did not
Are
do
you
it,
sure?
Jerry. I'm serious.
You did
I
not
did
have
not do
salt
it.
in the house.
I did not. I just did not
Okay.
use
Let
salt
me
and
believe
water
you.
to. Yes. So there is no specific thing for grape. I noticed that in the university settings, once a situation like this happens, they say, as Ellen said, they say go for pregnancy test. But it's not only pregnancy test. So when if something like this happens, or you know any real victim, advise them to go to the hospital
Yeah,
because there is a section in the
that's right.
hospital that handles grape issues. I or chief can't come and tell you do this particular one or not because that is not our area. So the best
Yeah,
advice is
to
advise
go
them
to
to
the
go to the
hospital.
hospital
Yes.
because they are set out rules. They will take series of tests. They even
And
take the picture.
medications that need to be administered on the spot to prevent certain things will be given. It,
Exactly.
then
And
then
for
also the tests, and I think also police reports is also very necessary. I think
yes, that's legally.
I can't remember where I got this information, but I think I also read somewhere that immediately it happens that you should avoid having your birth immediately and then report.
Yes, yes, that's true. They say you should not even change your toothbrush, don't change your towel,
Yes.
don't change anything because this will be used in at least tracking whoever your perpetrators was or were. So that one is legally. So what you should do in a case of grape, immediately if grape happens, legally report to the police. Don't change any of those your personal items because those personal items can be used to track DNS and track your perpetrators. So a lot happens in case of rape and even with victims. So it is really important for victims to respond immediately. Don't wait for after 3 days before you speak up. Move at an instant. Move to the hospital. There are areas and things put in place to handle situations like this.
Yes, if you go to the hospital like that, I think it can also help with the police with reporting to
Yes.
the police. Yes, it can really help. Today's episode has really been beautiful. Boom, are you still here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Today's episode has really been beautiful. I really want to appreciate you guys for showing up. Today was a crazy day for everybody.
Yes.
Myself,
I actually
I was
enjoyed the session.
I was scared I wasn't even going to meet up. But that's good. At least we've had this episode, regardless of everything. Traffic, bad network, and everything failing. Remotely recording these sessions can
Hmm.
be one tough thing, but good enough. Today has been good. All right, so for next week, I just quickly want to introduce what we'll be doing next week. Next week, we'll be talking about false accusations. This
Hmm.
is, although the numbers are not as high, but seeing how serious a crime this is, would also want to examine when people are accused falsely of a crime this serious, what could be the reasons for that? Could it be a situation of promise and fail? Because, for instance, in India, I think in 2019 or so, over 70% of reported cases, right? Over 70% of grave cases that were reported in the police stations were false. And over 50% of the false cases were cases where the man promised them marriage and did not marry.
Okay.
Now, very funny case. Like, I saw this thing, I was like, wow, 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 wow. And why it is that when in this particular kind of crime, typically when somebody is accused of something, the person is innocent until proven guilty. But in the case of rape, when somebody is accused, at least in the court of public opinion, not necessarily in the court of law, but in the court of public opinion, you're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. And even when you can prove yourself innocent, the effect still lives on in some way. The effect still lives on. And then we would also look at cases of regretted coitus and all of that, regretted sexual relationships and all of that. It's going to be a banger discussion next week. Something very. This one is already smiling. You want to go and sleep? Oh yeah, now she's waving everybody bye bye. All right.
No,
Thanks.
please, I want to say something. I actually want to say
She wants to
something.
say something. I thought you were waving
Yeah,
bye bye.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, there was something I missed. There is a question of who can be raped. Who can be raped? So, sorry, who can be raped, rather? So, this thing, anybody can be raped. Any gender, even a child can be raped. Even people of the same sex intercourse, that is, a lady to lady, your fellow lady can rape you. Your fellow man can rape you. So we should not, in general, only look out for the opposite sex. Say, as a lady says, they say it has to be a man. And for a man, the man says they say it's only some ladies that rape. But we should be aware that even your own gender can rape you. Please.
Yeah, you're doing like Jesus in the Bible when you had to save the best wine for the end. See the way you just the run points. Now wait time don't finish, leave us. Just preserve all these things. Next week, distribute all of the good wine across the entire time. No conserve them for the end. For those of you who don't listen to the end, now they miss Sha. But like saving the best wine at the end. Okay, so I think at this point we can end today's episode. It was really nice having you guys. Thank you very much for showing up. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Paul. Thank you to myself too. I mean, all right, bye guys.
Bye.